Howdy everyone. I'm working on these holes here for the wing fairing attachment. Now, unfortunately for me, maybe I've already talked about this, but when I built the wing, I inadvertently went ahead and dimpled these holes. I left them open, fortunately. I never put a rivet in them, but I did dimple them. So the skin and the rib are dimpled. So now I have to enlarge these holes for a number 8 countersunk head screw. So these have to be opened up with a number 19 drill bit. So here's what I've found out so far. This one has been drilled out with a number 19 drill bit. And you can see and feel that it didn't quite completely remove the dimple. And on the back side, I know the lighting sucks. The back side is definitely still dimpled. What I had done with another hole was I had gone ahead, just like with this one, I started with my pre-dimpled hole. It should not be dimpled. This is a number, this is a dimple for a number 30 size rivet. I went ahead and I put my number 19 drill bit right on here and drilled through. That's what I did with this one here, and that's what I did with this one here. Then after I drilled it through with a number 19 drill bit, I made sure to deburr it. Now again, this still has a good portion of the dimple still on it. It's sharp basically on the ends. After I had drilled through with the number 19, I came back and I deburred the hole on both sides. And then I went ahead and I dimpled it. And I think it was this one. This is the one that I ended up dimpling. So I drilled through the existing dimple with a number 19 drill, deburred on both sides, and then dimpled it with a squeezer, and it cracked. The reason it cracked, it's ever so slightly, but the reason it cracked is because even after you drill it through, there's still that dimple that exists. Part of the dimple still exists. And when you try to clean that, if you will, with your deburring tool, it basically creates a knife edge. It brings this entire diameter of the hole to a point. And then when you squeeze it, that point splits. Now, I'm not concerned about it because, for one, the crack is on this outside. And if it were to continue to migrate, it's just going to migrate straight across all the way through this little bit of material this way. And then it will stop. So I'm not concerned about that. The other thing that I decided to try was to, I went ahead with my squeezer and I removed the original dimple. So here's an existing dimple here. I went ahead and squeezed this flat. At that point, I'm basically starting from a pre-punched hole, which the majority of the airplane is anyway. So I squeezed the dimple flat. Then I deburred both sides, just like it was a pre-punched hole. I'm sorry. I dimpled it flat. I squeezed the dimple flat. And then I drilled with a number 19 drill. Then I deburred both sides. And then I dimpled with a number 8 size die. And that seemed to work. It's not the best looking dimple because this material here is kind of thick. I'm not happy trying to machine countersink that large of a dimple because the skin is thin. The flange of the rib is a little thicker. But if I was using a smaller screw, potentially I would think about machine countersinking, but I just don't want to machine countersink a dimple this large on skin this thin. The van's instructions imply that you dimple this, and I'll explain that in a minute. So I went ahead and dimpled. It's not the prettiest dimple, but it does work. There's no cracking, and everything is fine. One more thing to talk about, especially where the wing walk doubler is. So this is the top of the wing. You've got your wing walk doubler in here, so you have 3 pieces of material in here. You cannot dimple that. It's too thick. But what I want to talk about is when you enlarge these holes, when you drill through this stack of material, you're going to get metal shavings in between these pieces, these layers, and you're going to have to dig them out. Same over here. When you drill these holes, you're going to get metal shavings in between these stack of material between the skin and the rib flange. So what I have done, which works really great, on either side of the holes, when I go to drill out this hole here, I put my spring-loaded clamps. I'll clamp it here and I'll clamp it here. So I'll clamp it on either side of the hole. And what works out really nice is I just happen to have my fluting obviously in between each rivet. So I'll clamp right on that flute on both sides of the hole. That pinches everything nice and tight. And then when you drill through, you don't get any shavings in between. So my procedure is this. Here's an existing dimpled hole. I'll clamp on both sides, drill it through number 19, deburr, deburr, dimple. That's the procedure so far. Now I haven't gotten to the nut plates and how I'm going to do all that yet. But like I said, the instructions imply that the bottom skin you can go ahead and dimple, even though I think it's a little too thick, but it's better in my opinion than trying to machine countersink something so thin. Here are the written instructions, or the plan, the written plan. This is the wing laid out flat. And these locations here, when you look at the legend, they say that you're to use a K1100-8 nut plate. Those are the countersunk nut plates. So that implies that these holes should be dimpled. Down here, this is where the wing walk area is. It specifically says that you have to machine countersink, which makes sense because that's way too thick to dimple. So the instructions imply that you dimple these as per the K1100 nut plates. And then it specifically states that you're supposed to machine countersink this area. So dimpling is okay. You just have to figure out how to do it. If you've done it like I have, if you've already inadvertently pre-dimpled these, whatever you do to get to your number 8 dimple, make sure you work it in such a way that you don't have metal shavings trapped underneath or between your layers, and you don't have cracking on the dimple. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and flatten these dimples, drill them out, re-dimple them the correct size. On the wing walk area, I'm going to go ahead and machine countersink, just like the plans tell you to do. I'm going to do that on both wings, and then I'm going to come back and figure out how to get my nut plates on each of these locations. All right? Tedious, but that's experimental aircraft fabrication, people. All right, talk to you guys later.